for my father, Methodist is everything.
Methodist must be in the
You
class.
have to be. So there were times, I remember when we were in Kumasi, the nearest Methodist school was very far. But I still insisted we should go there. In the mornings, we had to trek a long distance.
Yeah, you mentioned some time back that you would hold your hands and
I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to school. Especially when we came to Accra. I couldn't. I came to class 5 in Accra and couldn't read nor write very well because in Kumasi I think that the P had taken over. When my children come to say, Daddy, tell us a rhyme. I go up. They be open TTB fast. You can TTB call as you TTB could try to TTB. Open TTB no TTB coach or you TTB. No you TTB far. But TTB could up in TTB City. Those were the rhymes we learned.
It's almost like a rap.
You see what I'm saying?
This is Bishop the rapper. You see, this is the rapping grace of Bishop.
The one the children in Accra were learning, the Lord is my shepherd. We were learning the running the shuffle. VCC. Amma is sweeping, Kofi is running, and then we were learning Amma Papa, Kofi to the cat. Those things. So when I came to Accra, it was difficult for me to write English. It was quite difficult for me. So at some point I didn't want to go to school again in class 5. My father would lash me, make sure I go to school. So the thought of not going to school and the cane that would follow. I'll just in the morning decide to make sure that if I don't want to, let me go to school. So basically, I'm a Krapian. I come from a large family of 5 sisters.
Identify you anywhere. Surprised he's met you.
Yes. You see, he come and call you, just point at you and say, you be like, weren't you the one who interviewed me? He never forgets. So I was very much involved. When she was born, I was there, and the first thing the doctor did was, my daughter came out hungry. As soon as she came out, and she didn't even cry. The doctor had to, rough her up a little. She just went, leave me alone. And then she just took it and said, well, good luck, because this one has her own mind. So here was this little thing looking at me like, okay, you're going to feed me, you're going to buy my diapers, you're going to buy my clothes, you're going to pay my tuition. I was like, okay. I love my dad. I love him. I'm very proud of him. I respect him. I'm in awe of him. You talk about superstar. I think he's a superstar.
I think that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being a dad. There is a difference. You've heard the cliche and people say anybody can be a father. Anybody can father a child. But not everybody can be a dad. There's one father has the formality. It's just like a title. But a dad denotes relationship. Yes. And I've been fortunate. I've been blessed. Let me just say God has been good. I could have been born to any family, but of course, I also believe in divine purpose. So I also believe that even though it could generally have been true, I could have been born to anyone, I believe I was born specifically to him. Because there's some things that I need in my life, and still do need, that I can only get from him. So I want to thank him for being an example for me and my brothers, my siblings in general. But I also want to encourage men in general to step up to the plate and take care of your responsibility. Because it really does change a child's life. It really does. Not every day your dad becomes president, but even before he became president, he called us all. We all came. I was in the U.S., my younger brother, my sisters. The older two, Chief and Nanama, they were here already. And so the rest of us came to join leading up to the inauguration. And he told us, he said, look, you guys just have to work with me. Your lives are going to change. And he even said, he was sorry. You know, I'm sorry, but I've sacrificed your lives. From now on, your lives are not going to be as you know it.
You won't have him all alone to yourself. Now
We're not going to have him all alone, and we're not going to have that much privacy either. Because now you're, whether you like it or not, you're thrust into the very public, you know, and everything you do is going to be scrutinized. So it means you're not going to be able to go the places you used to go. You're not going to be able to hang out with your friends the way you used to do. You're going to be restricted somewhat. But at the same time, it's going to also expose you to different things. So it was quite an experience. All of a sudden, there was security everywhere. And there were times when you just wanted to say, go home, go away, you know, just leave me alone. Because you want to just be you. But they also have a job to do. My father has this very subtle way. He's exactly the way you see him. If he has to raise his voice, I mean, you know you're in trouble. Back then, when I was younger, I used to wear glasses. And he'd just take off his glasses, and his eyes are really big, and he just, as he's talking to you, he's blinking 1,000 times like, look, you better get it together or else, you know. But he's sometimes when you expect him to like, hey, he doesn't. He just comes in, hoorah. It's like, think. He makes you evaluate yourself, assess yourself, because he knows what he has taught you. He knows what he and my mom have taught you. So even times when you expect it, like I'm expecting a grilling for this or maybe even a whipping, there are times when he wouldn't. He just, or sometimes he just look at you and go. And you know, sometimes silence is even more of a punishment, because sometimes you just look at you and just go. And then you're like, say something, you know, like yell, hit me, do something, because that is even more, you know, torturous. Because you just look at you and go like, you can see all the disappointment. So he used to apply different methods. And there are times when he just used to say, look, my friend, hey, hurrah. I said, no, don't make me, you know. So he applied different methods, but they all worked. Many things that make my dad special to me. But all in all, the summation of it is what he has invested in my life. And I'm not talking about just things, temporal things, the intangible. Things that have helped to mold me and bring me to this point. Things that have made me who I am. I'm thankful. I love him dearly. I couldn't wish for a better dad, a better mentor, a better idol. But that's me. I am also very much aware that not everybody is that fortunate. But I believe also in our own small way, we can all make a change, a difference in someone's life. And it doesn't just have to be your children alone. We are all accountable for each other. If you read the Bible or whatever faith you believe in, you are required to be good to humanity. Be your brother's keeper. Love. And really, the essence of love, you cannot love without doing. Love is an action-oriented expression. If you love someone, you do for them. So I want us all to develop love. What he has given me, I'm passing on to my children and to anyone I can that I meet in life. So I'm going to ask, especially fathers, because without the love of a father or father figure, there's a void that I don't know what can fill that void. I cannot imagine anything that can fill that void. It's so important in the development of a child. So I'm going to just ask everyone, especially fathers, to love show love, express love. And loving is not just about just buying things or compensating with things. Your time, things, intangible things that can impact a person, change a person's mindset, a person's perspective on life. That's what is lasting. Those are the things that stay with a person through their life. You hear people saying, had I not met so and so, I met such a person and they did this for me, and that's why I'm where I am. That's what matters. In the end, whose life have you touched? What have you done to better someone's life? So that's what I want to leave with everyone. Don't just think of yourself and your own. Because we're all where we are because of someone else's prayers and someone else's expression of love and someone else's giving or doing. So pay it forward, carry it on. Be blessed.
You can't develop a child. You can only guide your child to develop.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's profound.
Really.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, guiding your child to develop is allowing your child to explore their own strengths, their talents, and whatever they are good at doing, what their passions are. And then you just give them guidance, you know. But it's within what the child has in himself or herself, you know. Developing your child is saying, you will be a doctor, you know. You'll be a lawyer.
So it's compulsive.
It's compulsive, you know. They want to make you how they see you. Or maybe what they couldn't become, they want you to
They live their life through
live there. Thank you. So that's developing your child, living your life through them, and guiding them to develop is just letting them grow, but providing the guidance so that they stay in the right.
I'm very certain you weren't the only child of your time.
No. There were 6 of us actually. I'm the 5th. Oh. I'm the 5th of 6 children.
Almost the last.
Almost the last. I'm the 5th of 6 children, and the firstborn also, may he rest in peace, he passed. And then, so there are now 5 of us remaining. Yeah.
Did any of you become a priest?
No. At some point, I thought I would be.
Nation building time.
Nation building time. At some point, I don't know. Because I took such inspiration from him, you know, and I think what really, when I was growing up, one of the best things that killed me when after service there were, you know how the choir marches out and then they're followed by the pastors, and my father would be behind in his moderator garb, you know, and I was like, wow, one day I'll be like this.
The splendor of the recession.
Wow. But actually, he was my role model.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about him made him a role model?
I just watched the way people reacted around him. They were in awe of him. You know, they respected him so much. I remember I used to drive him, you know, when I got my license, after he gave me a hard time when I was driving. Once I got my license, you know, I was not driving him when the drivers were not, okay. Something like that, you know. And there were places we'll go to and people will line up, you know, the Presbyterian church, you know, just to meet their moderator, and I'm like, wow, you know, and they adored him. And the thing too, his sermons, it was like stand up on stage, man.
Yeah.
He would crack people up,
so
but he would at the same time preach his message.
You pricked that.
I think so.
You picked it.
And I wasn't aware that I was, you know, I was picking these things up. You know, until one day, and the lady just passed away, may she rest in peace too, Mrs. Osayado.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's a contemporary, you know, not my contemporary, my father's, you know, much younger though, not as old as my father would have been. But she said, when I watch your show on TV, I said, hey, KSM. You know, then I remembered that, yeah, he used to create so much excitement with his sermons. You know, and whenever he was preaching, the church is full, not because people want to go, hey, since he was under sorry, and never go. You know. So I think these were things that affected me that I didn't know. You know, his humor and his humility. So so humble.
Down to earth.
Yeah, that's so down to earth. And we picked that growing up, because that's how all my family are, really. We're all very, very down to earth. We're all very, very, where else will you be? You have to be down to earth anyway.
Life is short.
Life is short,
Don't
So
have stress.
I picked these things from him, and he was sort of like, in our time, we didn't have all these big celebrities now that,
No media bliss.
no media blitz,
Yeah.
So, hey, all I had was my father.
Wow. So like father, like son, and like you rightly said, I mean, it's been famously quoted that some things are taught, others are taught. And
Yes.
clearly, you've caught some essential things.
Yes,
from your father.
yes.
If you could share a few thoughts of some of the things you picked in terms of tangible, structured principles you picked from him, beyond his simplicity and humility.
Yeah, he was very, 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 very well organized. I couldn't pick that.
Mercy.
My father is so organized that when you go on his desk and you moved his pen 1 inch, he will say, who came on my desk? He knows where to place things. He's so meticulous, he will record everything. When he passed away, I stumbled onto a diary of his, and it was amazing the things my father would record. Yes. He would record everything, and it was that level of organization that blew my mind. That one I didn't pick, I'm sorry. I'm very, 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 I'm not as organized as I wish I
But
could have been.
definitely, you have others around you who organize.
Exactly.
That's-
Fortunately for me.
Now you can delegate that.
Fortunately for me, people are organized around me,
Yeah.
but that's one thing. But I respected that, the level of planning and the level of organization, was one of his traits that I really, really admired. His humility, I think, and then his way of exercising authority. He never hit me, not one day. But I was so, how do I put it? I was afraid of making him angry.
Holy fear.
Yeah, holy fear, He had a way of exerting his authority without being physical. I think the worst thing he did to me one day, he put 2 fingers like this and hit my forehead because I didn't take some medication. Then he did this, that's the only time I can remember now that my father, I would say, got physical.
But did he proud there? Is there any
Yeah.
veracity to that? He was so passionate that he had to kidnap his own child.
Yeah,
How is
well,
that
well,
possible?
my first marriage failed.
Okay.
My first marriage failed, and there were kids, involved, and they were in the U.S. But when they came to Ghana, they just fell in love with Ghana.
They didn't want to go.
They didn't want to go.
If
If they just enjoyed it being here, However, after the breakup, the court had given the custody to their mom, So at that point, I spoke with her and I said, listen, they want to stay and all, and she sort of agreed, and so the boys stayed. But people can agree and people can change their mind. I don't know what happened, but in between that,
It was a change of mind.
yeah, she decided she wanted the boys back, and the law was behind her because she had custody.
She had custody.
So because she had custody, the law was behind her. So according to the law, I had kidnapped my children because I didn't have custody. Now, so what are you talking about?
My own children.
Yeah, I mean, so there was a whole stint with that, FBI was looking for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they were American citizens. So that's how it would be, I've kidnapped some American citizens and taking them to some third world Ghana. So I was on
Where
the
people live on trees.
Oh, where we live on trees. I was on the FBI wanted list.
My.
I was on red alert.
Red alert.
Yeah, which means the information had gone to Interpol.
Interpol.
So every country could arrest me.
Extradition.
Extradition. But thankfully, all of that is over, man.
Thank
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Thank
Me.
God.
Oh yeah. All of that is over. It's history now. Last I was, social media. I was reading on social media, and they say 5 scandals of celebrities you didn't know, or something like that. 5 marriage scandals, came last year. I'm like, oh, this case was about so many years
So
ago, it's
many
been
years
resolved,
ago.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
but
gone
it's,
past it.
we've gone past it, way past it. Yeah. So we're
You heard
full
it
now.
on a father's moment. You know, you can only hear this on father's moment, and it's a joy to hear from a father who has shown a great principle, and that is that fathers can also get it wrong. Fathers can make mistakes, and he has admitted where he failed. You heard him from his own mouth, and it's a joy talking to KSM. What's KSM?
KSM, Kweku Sintim Misa.
Kweku
Sintim Misa. That's
Were you named after your grandfather?
no. My father named me after himself. And people don't. But the name is very tricky, you know, because it's Sintim Misa,
Yeah.
but it's a compound name.
Compound.
It's hyphenated.
Yeah.
And the Sintim is my father's name is Sintim,
Mhm.
and the family name is Misa.
Okay.
So he put the two together, Sintim Misa. So he had a formula when he had his kids, and he gave you a name. Then you use that name, but add it to the Misa.
Misa. Oh, okay.
So like the first one is Danso Misa.
Okay.
Then there was Chumwa Misa.
Okay.
Then Enima Misa.
Yeah.
I am Sintim Misa.
Okay.
You know, but because he also combined it, it's so confusing. You know.
Wow.
Now everybody's using it now. You know.
Oh,
I tell them, hey, you are not Sintim. You know. I'm the only Sintim.
They are plagiarizing.
Yeah, you're plagiarizing, man. I'm the only Sintim.
You need
know.
to get the royalties, and then a father's moment can come and take a few of those royalties that you receive.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that's the story behind the name.
Yeah, actually, it's very funny because when I came at first at Vibe and I was doing the radio, I was
Yeah,
Kweku Sintim Misa,
Yeah.
and then there's this guy at Vibe. He's called Ben. Oh gosh, Ben Doche.
Malo.
No, not Malo. Dovi. No. Dovi.
Okay.
Dovi Doche. Yeah. He said, Chale, why don't you just summarize? Just use your initials.
Yes.
It's faster. I said, really? Yeah. Just sound of this is KSM. I said, really? Reluctantly. And then look, now it has even come to replace. Because nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, you know.
Because I asked somebody, do you know what KSM is? Well, Kweku, I mean, do you have any thoughts to share with fathers? Young fathers, middle-aged fathers, those who are soon to leave this earth and
Yeah.
join their maker.
Yeah. Well, for the young fathers, I'm telling you, it is completely, absolutely important honesty. Yeah. And communication, you know. It's very, very, so important, you know, because if you hide things, and by honesty, I'm talking about even how you feel about certain things, you know. Yeah.
If you could encourage them about
Yeah.
the importance
I
of
think
mentorship.
it's very, very, very important to understand your child's world, you know, because the world that you grew up in might be different from the world that your child grew up in.
Definitely.
Definitely, you know. So you have to understand their world. They may do certain things that you don't like, but in the context of their world, I'm not saying like it, but at least you can understand it. And when you understand it, then you are better placed to advise them. You know. But when you don't even understand it, when you're even clueless, then you, straight from the word go, you're operating with a deficit because you don't understand what's going on. You know. So that's very, very key. You know, parents, try and understand the world that your kid is coming from.
It's the digimodernism.
Yes. You know, look at all the... If I want to talk to my son right now, I have to use the Facebook.
Yeah.
If you're for now, I get all upset with your phone for that. I say, okay, just, you know. So these are little things that, but that's their world now. And you can't judge them based on your words. Say, in our time, we didn't do this. Your time is gone.
The good old days.
The good old days is gone. So understand what the good new current days are, and whatever you can apply from the old days to help them understand life better, do that. But don't tell them not to live in their days. They will live in their days. Understand their days. You know? Understand what bothers them. Understand what excites them. I didn't grow up with social media.
Yeah.
You know, but as an old man as I am, when you come in on my first I didn't say WhatsApp,
WhatsApp,
Facebook, you know, it's the world now.
The world now.
You know, so try and understand that they are growing up in a certain world and see how their world was different from yours and how you can get them to understand yours, and you understand theirs. That's a very, very important thing. Otherwise, you and your children will be miles apart. Understand what's going on, you know. So that's very, very key. You know, parents try and understand the world that your kid is coming from.
It's the digging modernism.
Yes, you know, look at all the. If I want to talk to my son right now, I have to use the Facebook.
Yeah.
Before for now, I get all upset. Who they're from? For that, I realize, okay, just, you know. So these are little things that, but that's their world now, and you can't judge them based on your words. Say, in our time, we didn't do this. Your time is gone.
The good old days.
The good old days is gone. So understand what the good new current days are, and whatever you can apply from the old days to help them understand life better, do that. But don't tell them not to live in their days. They will live in their days. Understand their days. You know, understand what bothers them. Understand what excites them. I didn't grow up with social media.
Yeah.
You know, but as an old man as I am, when you come in on my first had in the WhatsApp,
WhatsApp,
Facebook, you know, it's the world now.
The world now.
You know, so try and understand that they are growing up in a certain world and see how their world was different from yours and how you can get them to understand yours and you understand theirs. That's a very, very important thing. Otherwise, you and your children will be miles apart.
Well, before we say bye-bye to our wonderful viewers, vintage as always, if you could give us one line from any of your shows. Because we couldn't speak to KSM without getting one line from either Ephias Rebo or the Saga of the Returnee or anyone that you would prefer.
Well, since we're talking about fatherhood, there's a line in Saga of the Returnee.
Okay.
And the line goes like this. He said, the line goes like this. My father had a sign in his room. I tell you folks, a whole big sign in his room. And the sign said, I am the boss of this house. And I have my wife's permission to say so.
You should be laughing by now. Your ribs are falling apart. And it's been wonderful on A Father's Moment. KSM, we are so blessed to have
Thank you.
And thanks for having us.
And it's a very unusual thing for me to be on this side of the divide, man. I'm used to doing the interview.
And this has been Amos Kevin and conversation with KSM on A Father's Moment. Please stay tuned in. We'll be back next week with another edition of A Father's Moment. Thanks for having us in your living rooms and wherever. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Any veracity to that? He was so passionate that he had to kidnap his own child.
Yeah, my first marriage failed.
Okay.
My first marriage failed. And there were kids, you know, involved. And they were in the US. But when they came to Ghana, they just fell in love with Ghana.
They didn't want to go.
They didn't want to go.
If
anything, they just enjoyed it being here, you know. However, after the breakup, the court had given the custody to their mom, you know. So at that point, I spoke with her and I said, listen, you know, they want to stay and all, you know. And she sort of agreed, you know. And so the boy stayed. But you know, people can agree and people can change their mind. I don't know what happened, but in between that, you know,
a change of mind.
Yeah, she decided she wanted the boys back, and the law was behind her because she had custody.
She had custody.
You know, so because she had custody, the law was behind her. So according to the law, I had kidnapped my children because I didn't have custody. Now, so what are you talking about?
My own children.
Yeah, I mean, so there was a whole stint with that, you know. FBI was looking for me.
Oh,
Yeah, because they were American citizens, you know. So that's how it would be, you know, African from American citizens and taking them to some third world Ghana. So I was on
where people live on trees.
Oh, where we live on trees. I was on the FBI wanted list.
Why?
I was on red alert.
Red alert.
Yeah, which means the information had gone to Interpol. So every country could arrest me.
Extradition.
Extradition. But thankfully, all of that is over, man.
Thank God.
Oh yeah, all of that is over. It's history now. Last I was, social media. I was reading on social media, and they say 5 scandals of celebrities you didn't know, or something like that. 5 marriage scandals, came last year. I'm like, oh, this case was about so many years ago. It's been resolved, Yeah,
We've
but
gone past it.
We've gone past it, way past it. Yeah. So we
You heard it on a father's moment. You can only hear this on Father.
So, can you tell us about your dad? What was the experience like?
Well, my dad, I'm definitely sure myself and my sibling will say that he is a blessing to us, and we thank God for his life. We were 3 boys and a girl, so in fact I think we are, because the lady is still alive. So yes, so we are 4, 3 boys and a girl, and I'm sure that he gave birth to us, as a young man, and he knew the task to deal with boys. It has to be quite strong hands. So he was very, very strict, very firm. He tried to teach us very good principles of life. And in as much as he was very strict, and he dealt with us when he has to deal with us using the cane. Why not? When he has to deal with us using words, why not? But he did all that in love, and I believe that he understood his role as the head of the family. And per his Christian principles, he also believed that he represents God in the home. So he did his best to make sure that he got us on track all the time. When you are wrong, when they tell you that is driving home, or you see the car coming home, you find a way to hide. You must always find a way to have some good news to share with him, because if it is bad news, you need to have a better way to approach him. Otherwise, you receive your spanking first, and then he will try to help you to sort yourself.
Yeah, my dad was a disciplinarian, and he was more or less, if I want to take the relationship between the core family and then his children, he wouldn't take any, there wasn't any engagement whatsoever. So he calls the shots. We are supposed to obey and not to ask any questions. And most often when we want to play, we just wait for him to go to work. And anytime we see him coming, we just hear his vehicle honking, then we all run to take shelter, because immediately he comes around, he see you playing, he will just pull your ear or give you a small slap, and then to ensure that, look, you are in line. And because he has told us that we are not supposed to go out to play, to create any problem, to hurt ourselves, or maybe go and create any problem for a family that will bring any repercussion to him. He doesn't want that. So he wants us to be glued to our books and ensure that we stay in our rooms and not to maybe have any relationship with anybody, so that at the end of the day, he will also have his peace of mind. That was the true dad. It's a very unique day in the lives of nuclear family and the family all over the world. And I expect that fathers who congregate as Osu Children's Home to go and encourage children that are not privileged, as some of us find ourselves, to go and give them what? Messages that will transform their lives, messages that will build on their faith, messages that will nurture them, messages that will inspire them, messages that will give them encouragement, messages that would what? Give them hope, and hope in the Lord. And even as we do that, blessings and honor and majesty and truth and everything will endure to those of us who went to Osu Children's Home to give the solidarity messages and then give them all the necessary mission that you have for them to achieve, so that glory, honor, and majesty will be unto all of them, and the fathers who united and congregated to the place to make a very joyful noise in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
It's good to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
It's good to have you here also. Tell me the story about your childhood. How was it like?
So, childhood is kind of complicated. Well, I was born in Kumasi, as you rightly mentioned, but basic education actually started in Chebi, where I went to Chebi Experimental School. So I did that, pretty much through class 4, and then my mom moved to Accra. She was teaching at Kanda Cluster. So over that period of time, did Kanda Cluster, did Kaneshi Cluster, did Newtown Experimental, and then when Dad came from Canada, he asked that I move in with him and his family in Legon, and that's what took me to Legon Primary, which didn't really change sort of the opportunities that one had. Legon Primary to Achimota Primary and Achimota Secondary, and that constituted sort of the formative educational experience that I had.
Judging from your success today, it's easy for one to assume that you grew up with a golden spoon in your mouth. But I know there's an interesting story surrounding the circumstance of your birth. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, true, embarrassing, interesting, but I think it's a reality that maybe a lot of Ghanaians also have. Is that came, I think on vacation to Chebi, and got Mom pregnant. And so there was quite a bit of pressure for her to abort. But she was strong and resisted it and escaped or fled to Kumasi, where my grand aunt was, and she had separated from Nana Oforiatta I, which is quite a taboo, so she also had to leave town. Anyway, so she set up a midwifery in Kumasi. So when this incident occurred, that's where Mom went for refuge, and they had the baby. And eventually, when things calmed down, she came back to Chebi with me, and life began. Eventually, Dad's family also accepted me, and I lived with Grandmom, and it was quite an exciting 10 years or so.
Extremely successful at what you do. I mean, your name, Ken Oforiatta, goes before you. But SASA sometimes tends to be a good excuse also to stay away from the family. You're a proud father of 3. How do you manage both worlds? Having to be very successful at what you do and committing time to it, and spending time with your children.
I think they can be complementary. It's difficult because, after all, we all have 24 hours. But in the end, it's an issue of priorities. Because in the end, what do they say? That's Ken and Angie's son. They'll forget about all the other things. So it is. So you have to invest in the children, and I think we have been reasonably successful in committing, time to their welfare and ensuring that they grow up in an exemplary way, and be very Christian in what they do. I mean, we falter, but I think you can spend quality time. But I suspect that the best gift that you can give the children is really loving their mother, because that then resonates the culture, the chemistry in the house is different. They pick up on that, they share, they love, and they are not afraid to be vulnerable because they trust. So I suspect the key for men is how deeply you love your mother or you love your wife, and that goes a long way.
That's a new one. But tell me about your children. 3 of them. Who are they?
3 of them. The first one is Katachie, and he's named after Dad, and Katachie, of course, is General Afrifa, who was one of Dad's colleagues. So we had Katachie in 1993, July 31st, and we brought him home, and Dad came by to look. He said, "Oh, well, I guess you can name him after me. He's handsome enough." so that then took it. So Kat's, it's now 17, going on to 18 this year. Went to GIS, did well. He got a distinction in his O levels, and he's now at SOS in boarding school. Great sprinter. He's 17, he does 10.85, 100 meters, so that's awesome. But that's also because grandfather was a great athlete, so that's my father. And so maybe it comes from there. Then Ohima is 15, she's at GIS in Form 4. Just a great spirit. And also a sprinter, that's very well in that. She won the 100 meters at GIS 2 weeks ago. Wow. And she loves the camera and the piano. So that's Ohima, who is 15. And then Nana Irenchi, so Ohima was named after my mom. And Nana Irenchi is named after Angie's mom. And as you know, Angie's mom was the first woman pilot, I guess in Africa. And she was in the Air Force. So Nana Irenchi is named after her. Nana Irenchi is like a spirit child. He's 9, and just a wonderful spirit. So he's, and that was a difficult one. After Katachie and Ohima, we lost like 3 in between, which were really hard for us. And we got Nana Irenchi from that, which has been a blessing.
Are any of the children taken after you? What stands out as?
Well, yeah, I did do sports. I even sort of did long jump for Greater Accra, in those days. So yeah, maybe that character, demeanor, gentle and hard, spiritual. Some look like me, sort of. So I don't know, it's a good mix. It's an alchemy that, you sort of see flashes in things that occur. So we are blessed, we are healthy.
When I came in earlier, I saw you in this crucifix pendant. Are you a very religious person?
I am a Christian and not apologetic at all about about that and about being born again. I just think it's a great lifestyle. I mean, that's what is it you have that is not being given to you by the Lord, and so how then do we steward whatever opportunity or gifts that you have in such a way as to give back. But it really occurred in terms of Angie and I taking Jesus as our personal savior after we had sort of lost 3 of the babies, and Archbishop Duncan Williams gave us Bishop Bula to help us, go through this pain.
Bishop Duncan Williams,
Action. Yeah, we didn't even go to that church, and that was quite impressive that he cared to do that. And he was not a very close friend, but we happened to have met, and so that happened. But prior to that too, we had some friends, Ralph and Chris Sutherland, who were sort of helping to push us in that direction.
question that I like to ask most parents.
Yeah.
And with your role as a father, do you think fatherhood is a rewarding enterprise?
It's
At the end of the day, does it count?
God, I mean, I think it's just an amazing opportunity to, to help with God's image in people, which are your children, and with that, for me, is also a wife that you will be loving. And I think if we build those sort of core foundational sort of nucleus family love, you build a greater society. You know, a society that we care and that we serve. And so fatherhood is key. I mean, dad's decision that I join them in their home is what has created, you know, this being called Ken. And so fatherhood is precious. And all of us as men, irrespective of how these children emerge, I think if we stand strong and responsible and take care of business, we'll just build a wonderful society. So yes, we love our Christian life.
Think your father imagined that someday you'll be this big?
Yeah.
He saw it.
My father always knew. My father told everybody. I mean, matter of fact, there's a very interesting story that he told everybody. When I was born, the hospital I was born in, my father was having an affair with one of the nurses at the hospital. And so everybody that worked in the hospital knew my father, right? And when I was born, he was late coming. So when I was born, all the other nurses crowded around my baby, what's it called, baby cot? Yeah. And so when he got to the hospital, there was a whole crowd around me. And then he said he was popular from day one. From the day I was born, I had an audience. So there you have it.
But I think largely also the environment in which you were raised has something to do with your father.
Well, that too.
Your father wasn't a person who wasn't known to
Well,
spotlight.
you could trace.
He was popular right from the day he until he met.
Well, you're right. My father was some type of star himself. My father's father, I found out, was one of the first people to cut a record in Akwatia. So there you have it. You could trace the roots. And my cousin is Sydney. So, you know, you can keep checking it. It keeps driving down. So.
What are some of the fond memories you have of Ricky Sr.?
Oh, plenty. Plenty. You don't have the whole show. You know what I mean? Believe me. Ricky. He's a deep guy, man. He would, when I was younger, he would always take a walk with me around Ambassador Hotel. And I remember there was a spot right by the poolside where they sold rice and chicken, the best rice and chicken. And so every time that I would go with him, the first thing I would order was rice and chicken. So one day, I went over there by myself, and the guy behind the counter, who didn't know my name, wanted to ask me about my father. He said, "How did you come by yourself, little boy?" So when I was walking away, he was trying to call me. So he started screaming, rice and chicken boy. You know. So all around the poolside, they called me rice and chicken boy.
Me and Ricky go, I mean, where can I start, man? From studio sessions, from videos, clothes. You know, he would make me the nicest clothes. When I was in school,
He was a fashion designer.
yeah, when I was in school, I was always fly. You know what I mean?
Is it true that his break came in when he met Isaac Hayes?
That was one of his
Is
main.
that story true?
Yeah, one of his main breaks. He met Isaac Hayes and Diana Ross. And you done a little
One
history
time.
on him, huh? Yeah. No, he was working before, but that's the one that Isaac Hayes was putting out a movie called Chuck Turner at the time, and he wore some of my father's clothes. So, history.
Hello everyone and welcome to Father's Own. My name is Sedem Ofori. Our guest today on Father's Own is a real musical genius whose career spans nearly 3 decades. Many think that he has done for Ghanaian music what Bob Marley did for Jamaica's reggae. He's credited with originating one of Ghana's most popular music genres, hip life. And I'm sure you're already beginning to get a picture of the person I'm talking about. His real name is Reginald Osei, but he's affectionately called Reggie Rockstone. He's our guest today. Reggie, welcome to Father's Own.
Hey, blessings.
And of course, he's here also with his son. He bumped into them playing PlayStation. Do you do this frequently?
Yeah, almost every day.
Both of you.
And people come here. Some of your celebrity come here. Uncle Eddie Blade, and all of them come. Yeah.
And you play the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I was up similar to what you're having with Ricky for you.
I might have had a better time with my father. You know, sometimes I don't think I need to pull my weight a little bit more when it comes to fatherhood, because you know what I mean. I'm traveling. I own a nightclub. I come home at 6 in the morning. You know, in between the time, anytime we get, we bond. But Ricky's a real good kid. He's named after my father.
I can imagine.
So, you know, but I got a girl too. I got a girl, little Zuzu.